It's a strange feeling, isn't it? You can be scrolling through your phone, looking at hundreds, maybe thousands of online friends, and still feel this pang of loneliness. It's this weird, modern paradox. We are more connected than ever, but so many of us feel deeply disconnected. So today we're going to dive into that feeling. We're going to separate the pain of loneliness from the incredible power of solitude, and maybe figure out how to find some real peace in our own company. So let's start with the big one, the question that really kicks this whole thing off. It gets right to the heart of our digital lives. But what if we've been asking the wrong question this whole time? What if the real problem isn't being alone, but our fear of it? That deep discomfort we feel when all the noise finally stops and we're just left with our own thoughts. Yeah, that's the territory we're going to explore. And this right here, this is the core idea we're unpacking. On one side, you've got loneliness. This is that involuntary negative state. It's a feeling of lack, a genuine pain when our basic need for real, rewarding social contact isn't being met. But on the other side, you have solitude. And this is completely different. This isn't something that happens to you, it's something you actively choose. It's that positive, intentional, and honestly rejuvenating experience of connecting with yourself. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to redefine what it even means to be by yourself. Then we'll get into the actual science behind solitude. After that, we'll uncover the powerhouse that is self-reflection, tackle the internet's complicated role in all this, and finally, get into some real practical ways you can cultivate solitude in your own life. All right, let's really get into it. What does it mean to be by yourself? Because it's not just one thing, right? Being physically alone is a huge spectrum, and understanding the difference between the two ends of that spectrum, that is the first and honestly the most important step to harnessing its power. Okay, first up, let's be super clear about loneliness. According to research from the American Medical Association, this isn't just about feeling sad. It's a legit, unmet biological need, just like hunger or thirst. And when that need goes unmet for too long, it triggers real physical consequences. We're talking elevated cortisol, chronic stress, and a whole list of poor health outcomes. It's a genuine state of distress. Now flip that on its head, and you get solitude. A recent study talks about solitude not as a lack of something, but as this rich, complex experience. And here's the crucial part, the piece that changes everything. When it's voluntary, when you choose it and you value it, it becomes this incredibly powerful tool for growth, especially for figuring out who you are. It's the difference between being left alone and choosing to be with yourself. But look, this isn't just some philosophical idea. There's real science to back it up. Let's dig into some fascinating research from the University of Reading that looks at what actually happens to us when we spend time alone. Researchers tracked adults for weeks to get a real-world picture of what this looks like day to day. Okay, now this is where it gets really interesting, because the results show that solitude is a total double-edged sword. On days when people spent more time alone, they reported some clear benefits. They felt less stressed, and they felt a greater sense of freedom, like they could be their true selves. But there was a cost. On those exact same days, they also felt more lonely and less satisfied with life. So how does that work? How do we get the good stuff without the bad? And here it is. This is the key that unlocks the whole puzzle. The researchers found that all those negative effects, the loneliness, the dissatisfaction, they were dramatically reduced, or sometimes they just vanished completely when the solitude was a choice. It's the difference between being shoved into a room versus choosing to close the door yourself. The action is the same, but the feeling, the entire experience is completely different. Your intention is everything. The study's lead author, Professor Netta Weinstein, she sums it up perfectly. It's not about trying to hit some magic number of hours alone versus with people. It's about recognizing that choosing to be alone can be a healthy, positive act. The why behind your alone time matters so much more than the how. So if choice is the key that starts the car, what's the engine that actually makes it go? Why is choosing to be alone so important for personal growth? Well, the answer lies in this incredibly powerful process called self-reflection. This is the work that happens in the quiet space that solitude creates. Think about it like this. Self-reflection is the active process of just looking inward. It's when you finally give yourself a minute to examine your thoughts, untangle your feelings, and actually make sense of your experiences. It's how we take all the messy, random threads of our daily lives and weave them into a coherent story. A story of who we are, where we've been, and where we're going. It's literally how we build a strong sense of self. Okay, take a look at this model with me. It's kind of like a map of the mind. You see three main landmarks: solitude, self-reflection, and identity development. Now, look at the arrows. Solitude has a direct path to identity, sure, but it also has this other powerful path that runs right through self-reflection. This shows it so clearly. Solitude creates the space, but self-reflection is the essential work we do in that space. And the numbers here tell such a cool story. The study measured the strength of these connections. The direct effect of solitude on identity? That's a 0.22. But look at the indirect effect, the path from solitude through self-reflection to identity. It's also 0.22. Just think about that for a second. The conscious work you do in your alone time is just as impactful as the act of being alone itself. It's not just about being alone, it's about what you do when you're alone. All right, we can't have an honest conversation about being alone in the 21st century without talking about the elephant in the room, the internet. In our hyper-connected world, finding true, uninterrupted solitude is harder than ever, and our digital lives make this whole thing way more complicated. So, research from the AMA Journal of Ethics basically lays out two competing ideas about how the internet affects us. First, there's the stimulation hypothesis. This idea says the internet is a good thing. It helps us stay in touch, strengthen friendships, even meet new people, and all of that should reduce loneliness. But then you have the displacement hypothesis. This one warns that the internet actually increases loneliness by pulling us away from real-life interactions and into a more shallow digital world. So which one is right? Well, the evidence says it's complicated. And the verdict really comes down to that one crucial factor we keep coming back to: intention. Problematic use, the mindless scrolling, the doom scrolling, using it to escape, that's consistently linked to being more lonely. But when it's used intentionally, for real communication, it can actually reduce loneliness. It's the difference between scrolling past strangers and having a meaningful video call with a friend. Same tool, totally different outcome. Okay, we've explored the why, now let's get to the how. We've defined the terms, we've looked at the science, we've talked about the challenges. So how do we actually put this into practice? How do we build this skill of healthy, restorative solitude in our ridiculously busy, noisy lives? I absolutely love this quote from the philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche. He saw solitude not just as a break, but as a kind of profound freedom, an inward cave where no one can get to you, where you can be truly yourself. And think about the tyrants in your own life. The pressure to conform, the constant notifications, the endless to-do lists. Solitude is your sanctuary from all that. So how do we find our own inward cave? Here are 5 simple, totally doable steps. 1. Take a real phone break. Turn it off, put it in another room for an hour. See what it feels like. 2, and this one might be the hardest, let your mind wander. Set a timer for just 5 minutes and do nothing, no distractions. It feels weird at first, but this is where the magic happens. 3, take yourself on a date. Start small, a coffee shop or a park. Get comfortable in your own company. 4, get outside. The research is clear. Just 2 hours a week in nature can make a real difference. And 5, find a creative outlet, something you do just for you, for the fun of it, with no audience in mind. So, if you take one big idea away from all of this, let it be this: we need to consciously shift our perspective. Stop thinking of being alone as this passive thing that just happens to us. Instead, start framing solitude as an active, intentional practice, a skill you can build to help you grow, find clarity, and just feel better. And so I'll leave you with this question to think about. What is your relationship with solitude? Is it something you run away from or something you embrace? Is it a source of pain for you or is it a space for freedom? The answer to that, well, it could change everything.